Councillor Bonaventura here.
He was frantically messing with the printer. There it is.
Morning, councillors, CEO, directors, ladies and gentlemen. The traditional custodians of the land we call home. In our valley, the Yuwi people represent a human connection dating back almost 60,000 years. And as we come together as a community and always as a council, we honour the elders of the Yuwi people, past, present, and those emerging, and pay our respects as always as a community. Welcome to our online audience today. This council meeting is being streamed live and recorded in accordance with the council's standing orders. And welcome also to the people in the public gallery today. Thank you very much. Thanks, Councillor Bonaventura. By attending a council meeting in public, you're required to know that your actions and your words are going to be recorded and your image recorded and displayed, of course, on the council's website in accordance with our standing orders. We're also required to tell you, as per the top right of the screen up there, that you may be subject to legal action if your actions or comments are deemed inappropriate or unacceptable, which we're sure they're not. So thank you very much. Councillors, I declare the meeting open and welcome. Our lead in prayer today is the Reverend Dr. Julia Pittman. Reverend Julia.
Good morning, everybody. Let's join together in prayer. Let us pray. Lord of our life and God of our salvation, guide this meeting of Mackay Regional Council and all those who direct its business, councillors, staff, residents and visitors to our region. Bless by the power of your Holy Spirit the work of a new financial year. We give thanks for the unanimous acceptance of the 2021-2022 budget, which is hoped will return a surplus and bring prosperity to our region. We pray that through the Capital Works Program, the community and COVID-19 assistance grants, and particular projects such as the mountain bike track, the Northern Beaches Community Hub, the Riverfront Development, and the Animal Management Centre, that the environment will be protected, that workers may gain satisfaction, and that the welfare of all the people of our region may be enhanced. We pray for all residents in our community who are forced to consider the spending of loose change. We pray for a narrowing of the gap between rich and poor, and that in our region all residents will be able to absorb a modest rate rise, especially those in our community who are least able to afford it. May your Holy Spirit so work amongst us that our Mackay Regional Council may be renewed in truth, beauty and order, and in happiness and peace for all, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Reverend Julia. There's nobody absent on council business today. We have no apologies. Move into condolences. Council, with your leave, I'd like to offer condolences for Councillor Lynn Jones of the Isaacs Regional Council, who lost her battle with cancer on the 4th of July, and express our support for the Isaacs Regional Council and send our condolences to Councillor Jones's family. Are there other condolences? Councillor Bello.
I'd like to offer my condolences and those of council to the family of Val Hardwick, who after a very short illness passed away a couple of weeks ago. She was the wife of Robbie Hardwick, who had a long history with council and SES, and the mother of Amanda and Dale Hardwick, Dale being a young fellow that I coached when I first came back. But it's not about any of them, it's more about Val. Val was a lovely lady who for a long time worked at the National Australia Bank as manager in Serena. She was involved in sports in an administrative capacity, and even though she didn't have any background in rugby league, supported Robbie and her son Dale, and indeed myself while I was coaching there. They had an open door policy at their house for anyone that came and didn't have a place to stay, often stayed there. She's one of the few people that I can honestly say I never ever saw anything less than worthy from her. And Robbie and Val were basically childhood sweethearts. I heard the story of the meeting and how for 2 years they were too young, and then when they finally became old enough, moved into a small unit together. And it's like two plants that grow for a length of time like that. The roots become so closely intertwined that when you tear one away, it often damages the other. So I hope very strongly that Robbie recovers from this, and that Dale and Amanda and their grandchildren do as well. Thank you.
Councillor Ballard. Are there further condolences? Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Worship. It's been a rough couple of weeks in Serena with the passing of not just Mackay Hardwick, but two other employees of what was then the Serena Shire Council, and they continued on to be employees of Mackay Regional Council. I'll start with Ross Turner. Ross was our water plant operator in Serena. He had a very long history with council, some 30 odd years with council. And there wasn't much that he didn't know about the operations of the water treatment plant in Serena. And then as we moved to Mackay Regional Council, Ross expanded his skills to the sewage treatment plants as well. And then we've seen that technology evolve and working with that remotely. And Ross was always up to the challenge of learning new things and making sure that not just the Serena residents, but the entire network, he played a part in making sure that people had the safe delivery of clean water and their sewage was being taken care of. He has 3 children that he's left behind and their grandchildren, and we'd like to offer our condolences to the family on behalf of council. The second one is Jack Langdon, and Jack started with Serena Shire Council in the beach restoration team down there when we were implementing our beach plans way back then. And Jack again carried over to Mackay Regional Council, and he became the coordinator of our beach restoration team in the southern region. Jack's love for the environment was pronounced. He played a lot of roles in not just land care, but his own property that he had just outside of Serena, restoring that, growing trees. And he tried to instill that in his children. He has 4 daughters and their families and grandchildren. And he really did try to instill that into the children, to be appreciative of the land and look after the land, and it will serve you well. He also was a bit of a character and had a great love for theatre and became heavily involved in the theatre, little theatre in Serena back in the early 70s and 80s, and that is where he met his wife at that time. He also had a number of businesses in town, and the one that I remember the most is the pizza shop that he used to own in Serena. Always had the best pizzas, of course, until I come along with my pizza shop, but prior to that he would have the best reputation for pizzas in Serena. So we would like to wish our condolences for the family.
Thank you very much, Councillor May. Are there further condolences? No further. Councillor England.
Thank you, Worship. And again, unfortunately, with the Serena area, Carol Dunbaven, previous Deputy Local Controller of Serena area, Group Leader of Serena SES Group for 15 years and total service of 25 years to the region. Was a lady that didn't like too much fuss, so she decided there'd be no funeral after her passing, and so not much has been said publicly so far about her service. She was instrumental in having probably the most prosperous emergency service cadet unit in Queensland, and in an area that lacked at the time many youth opportunities, particularly in the Serena area. It was the biggest youth group in that area for over 15 years. She was something called a peer supporter, which is someone who is trained to intervene in critical incident stress scenarios when SES volunteers are sometimes subjected to high stress environments and upsetting situations. Not only was she in that role able to talk to SES volunteers with regards to their SES experiences, but also in their personal lives. And I know of at least 3 occasions in which she was able to ensure that the volunteers who were looking desperately for help, who aren't currently in the SES today but are still with us today as a result of her conversations with them. She was able to, from 2008, there was only the Serena group down there that was still operational with about 15 members. She was able to reopen Kamala, Armstrong Beach, Serena Camplin Beach groups and increase volunteer numbers by over 400%, which meant that during Tropical Cyclone Anthony, for the first time the Serena area was able to, well, for the first time in a long time, the Serena area was able to look after itself entirely as a result of those volunteers. And Armstrong Beach group became the most, with 25 volunteers at its height, became the most trained and most deployed group in Queensland, attending most of the flood and cyclone affected areas in 2012, 13 and 14. She was instrumental in getting the new headquarters in Serena at Brewers Road. The old headquarters at, I think it was Hoey Street, was condemned 10 years prior to the building of the new facility with asbestos and resident snakes. She pushed very hard and we were able to get $750,000 from council to build that new facility, the first purpose-built emergency operations centre for the unit, with more to follow later. So we send our condolences to her family and those that will miss her.
Thank you very much, Councillor Angler. Thanks, councillors. That's good tributes to some outstanding citizens in our community. Any further condolences? Let's move on to confirmation of minutes. Now, first of all, the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the 23rd of June. They've been circularised. No questions have come back on that. Somebody like to move that they be adopted? Councillor Bonaventura moves. Councillor May seconds. Those in favour? Any against? It's carried. Thank you. Confirmation of the minutes of the special budget meeting of the 23rd of June. Once again, they've been circularised. We'd like to move that the special budget meeting minutes be adopted. Councillor Mann moves, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. In business arising out of the previous minutes, we note the inclusion in the minutes of this meeting, the answers to questions taken on notice at the meeting of the 23rd of June. And they've been subsequently answered by emails to all councillors and included in these agenda items today, pages 5 through 7. So we'll note the inclusion in the minutes for this meeting. All right, there's no mayoral minutes today, so let's move on to the consideration of committee reports and recommendations. First of all, the Office of the Mayor and CEO report for the monthly review of June. CEO.
Thank you, Your Worship. I want to focus a little bit on safety. So we had one long-term injury there where there was some foreign matter in the eye. We've had 3 LTIs for the quarter, but given we're sort of closing off the year, we've done better with our LTIs in the previous year, but not as well as the year before that. So we want to bet that year before this financial year. In there, it does talk about the external audit report, which I mentioned before on safety. And again, just reinforcing that we're in that top quartile of councils around from the external audit that the LGAQ does, which is a good outcome and gives that external validation of the good work that we are doing in the safety area. I'll note that corrective actions are still a challenge. We're not closing those out as we should. In that, particularly that 30 days, we do drop off and bring them back in the 60 days, but that's something that's still a focus for us, that we're not quite where we want to be in that respect. There's a couple of new indicators in there which are behind, but they're new, so we're just ramping up on that one. So making sure incidents reported on time, and there's a 30-minute and a 60-minute reporting time frame there, 60 minutes for external contractors. And we're also introducing a measure around contractor spot checks as well. So getting out to those contractor work sites and satisfying ourselves that the safety is being done correctly on those sites. And as I said, we're just kicking those off, so they are red, but we'll be working on those this financial year and hopefully get them to our target. Also note that grant funding's come in at that sort of 36 million for the year, and in the report there's some of the June funding that's come in as well. So I'll point councillors to that. So that we had the Council of Mayors meeting. Again, that was a good meeting. So a number of external bodies came in and talked at that, including grant, the body looking at how grant funding is allocated to councils across Queensland. We also had some updates on the suicide prevention and the work that's happening to coordinate that. My report.
Thank you, CEO. And just following up, we had the Grants Commission come to the Council of Mayors, and we had one present. Former Mayor Deirdre Comerford was here, and 2 online. They're outlining the review of the allocation of the FAGs, the Financial Assistance Grants, and they've got that review underway right now. It doesn't really affect this council, because this council is one of a handful of the big councils who have a standard allocation, and there won't be any opportunity to change that allocation. It does affect, the Isaacs Regional Council, but Sunday Regional Council being smaller councils, and particularly in the fly-in, fly-out workforce, and the 12,000 odd people that are in Isaacs every day that don't get counted in the public count for the calculation of the financial assistance grants. So there is an opportunity for councils to actually contribute to the review by the Grants Commission. But as I said, our councils probably, we can contribute on behalf of Isaacs and Whitsunday, but we stand very little chance of increasing our FAGs at all. Questions?
Just in relation to that, Your Worship, will there be an increase, though, just as a progressive increase for what larger councils like ours do receive? Is that on the plans, on the cards?
It's not on the plans, Councillor Bonaventura. As you know, the FAGs have changed very little since their inception in terms of its actual grant and the percentage of the grant. But that's what the Grants Commission review is actually trying to do, is to focus a little bit more attention from the federal sphere on the amount of money that comes out of the federal bucket that goes to local government. So we'll help them as much as we can.
Thank you.
Are there further questions for the CEO's report? Councillor Mann.
Just in terms of safety and the corrective actions that are outstanding, there's one for development services that's been outstanding between 60 and 360 days, and I wondered what that was and how close we are to closing that out.
CEO?
The development
Director? Who's going to do that?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So the question from Councillor Mann was, there's been an outstanding action item between 60 and 360 days in the report. What is being done to close that out?
I'll have to take that on notice, I'm sorry.
Okay, we'll get that circulated. Further questions? No further questions? Somebody like to move the report's adoption? Councillor May moves, seconded by Councillor Jones. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. A good report for really the sort of the end of the year, 30 June mark in where things are at. And look, we have to highlight the safety process and the safety aspects of this council. And you can see from the summary in the CEO's report there, 84.4%, we exceeded the pass mark of 70%. So that's from an external reviewing our processes and systems, and we have come up really as a industry leader, and it states that in a special comment in the report as well. The external funding of over $36 million for this council is an absolute godsend, really, because that is $36 million that our ratepayers don't have to find, and our officers do a fantastic job in ensuring that we are hitting the mark, chasing the right buckets of money to fund capital programs and sometimes services and operations as well. So they do a fantastic job there. And if I just, if you think about, if we don't have that $36 million, then we would not be able to deliver for our community. So that's, really worthy of noting. I also wanted to touch on our Council and Community Day. We had that in the southern area this month, and we ventured down to Kamala to have a look at the site for where the new water treatment plant is going to be installed down there, and that's all about making sure that we're providing good quality drinking water for the residents of the Kamala area, and that was around the hardness, making sure that it is more palatable for our community. We also met with a number of organisations while we were down there, the Hall Committee, our Emergency Liaison Officer, and members of the CWA. So it was great to have a catch up with those organisations and representatives, and that they are doing, and they're a community that is well connected and have some very good plans in place to be able to progress their community with the hall and some of the other activities that go on in the Kamala area. We then had a tour of some rural roads down in the southern area. We also had a look at some of the capital program that's being undertaken in the Serena district, and that was around the upgrade to the drainage on Serena Beach Road. And then we also went and had a look at the upgrade to the Brownsea Court Park. And then we went and had a look at the industrial estate at Patch Street there in Siram Key Court, where we've totally rebuilt those streets and reinforced that with extra asphalt. We then undertook a tour of Dalrymple Bay. Can I also just highlight the legal services that are contained within the report of the CEO. And our very small team in legal services have got 275 matters on the go at the moment. And if you look at the numbers in the report, most of them are around disputes and litigation. So that's something to be noted. The team do a fantastic job there in making sure that we're allocating our resources and spending our money wisely and pulling in external assistance when required. The final thing that I wanted to mention, and yourself has mentioned it, the Grants Commission presented to the Greater Sunday Council of Mayors. I believe the Grants Commission will also be present at the LGAQ conference here in Mackay, so there'll be an opportunity for councillors to make appointments with the Grants Commission to put forward their views or ask any questions. The Reconstruction Authority also gave a presentation, I believe, so I think it's really important for the Council of Mayors to keep up to date with what's happening with the Reconstruction Authority. And myself and Deb Ray were able to present to the Council of Mayors an update on the Greater Whitsunday Mayors Suicide Prevention Task Force. People may or may not know, but we held a workshop, a co-design workshop, a couple of months ago now to be able to flesh out what might be a community-based solution to accessing services. That information is being collated at the moment, and we'll be bringing some recommendations back to the task force. Thank you very much.
No speaker against. Any other speakers? Councillor Mann speaking for.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to echo Councillor Moyer's comments on safety and the report card, if you like, that we recently received. It is vital, as we all know in this council, to make sure that our employees are safe all the time. And I commend the CEO for adding the extra KPIs in terms of incident reporting. And I just wanted to highlight our visit to Dalrymple Bay Coal Terminal, where the CEO, Steve Ray, did talk to us about their safety culture and their reporting, and how their reporting goes to their whole board of directors. Every single incident is reviewed by the board of directors, not to ping people for doing the wrong thing, but it's a learning. And that's what we need to keep focusing on here. So well done to the CEO for those extra KPIs.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mann. Any other speakers? No other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thank you. 11.1.2, the 2022 Mackay Show holiday. Really straightforward. Somebody like to move the adoption? Councillor Bonaventura moves, seconded by Councillor Hassan. Councillor Bonaventura.
Thank you, Worship. Look, it's a pleasure to support the Gazettal of the show holiday on the 16th of June. And Mackay Show has just recently celebrated a very successful event this year with some innovative changes, I believe. So I look forward to seeing them making further changes and what they can bring for us in 2022.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bonaventura. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. Council attendance at the Developing Northern Australia Conference. Councillor May and Councillor Justin Englert proposed in this motion to attend the 2021 Developing Northern Australia Conference. Questions? No questions? Councillor Bonaventura.
Well, just in relation to the total cost of travel and accommodation, I see it's estimated at $5,500, and we're now sending, because we're sending two councils, but a few days ago we were only sending one. It was $3,700. So I just want to know how we managed to score a discount, or what was the deal with that? I would have expected it to double. That's all.
So yeah. And anybody?
I can.
Can you outline that?
So
Thanks, Councillor
it was in the report that we get one free registration.
Okay.
Yes, so that was in the first report, so $3,700 with one free registration. So now we've got two going, so we will only get one free registration, the second one has to pay, so I would assume it would have been more again to do that, but I'm just baffled and I'd like an explanation. That's
Well,
I'm happy the two are going, I think they will do
we'll
it.
take that on notice and we'll give you an idea, because I don't think anybody can answer that right now. So.
Yeah, and a second question, if I may, are we sending any other staff to this event, or just two councillors?
No. Oh, we're sending staff? Is the director go?
Yeah, Your Worship, myself, the Manager of Economic Development and Tourism and the Chief Executive Officer.
All right. Okay, there you go.
Thank you, Worship.
All right. Other questions? Somebody like to move the adoption? Councillor Mann moves, seconded by Councillor Hassan. Councillor Mann.
With our council bidding to host the conference next year, I think it's important for staff and councillors to attend, particularly the Deputy Mayor, maybe as a proxy for you, I'm not sure. The conference has a packed program and discusses lots of things that are relevant to all councils in Northern Australia, including livability and employment, health and emergency management, a big one, given the weather variances that we have around here, diversity, supply chains and innovation, something we can all learn from, I'm sure, and trade and investment. And attendees will include all levels of government and a keynote speaker or keynote session with the Honourable Michelle Landry, the member for Capricornia. So that will be really good to hear too, I'm sure. Councillors, we're all able to attend any conference that we like, and I personally believe it's not up to us to decide what will come back in the report. I think that's up to the councillors that are attending to decide what's relevant to our council. And with a lot of conferences, presentations are available online so people can have a look for themselves anyway, even if they don't wish to attend the conference. In looking at the program, I don't believe there's any way that Councillor May and Councillor Englert can attend every single session that's on. There are so many concurrent sessions running. So what will be available online afterwards will be invaluable to all of us, I'm sure. And aside from the learnings from attending a conference, the opportunity to network and exchange ideas is always invaluable. So I fully support Councillor May and Councillor Englert attending.
Thank you. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I think it's important, but we're actually going to make a bid for next year's conference here in Mackay. We've got to have some fairly strong representation at this particular conference. And so good luck. It'd be nice to see the Developing Northern Australia Conference 2022 here in Mackay. For the motion, those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thank you. Move on to our reports right now. 11.2.1, the Capital Works Monthly Review for June. Director Carlos.
Thank you, Worship. Speaking to the report for June, as we often do, we start with safety. We had no lost time injuries during June, but we did have 4 incidents that are outlined there in the report. Again, a little bit disappointing, but sort of inevitable in terms of minor incidents that occur in day-to-day operations that we do. And we continue to track those incidents and understand where we can improve those practices. The list of projects there, it's been a busy month in June, obviously trying to close out a lot of projects that were 2021 projects and also linked to funding grants. So there's over 40 projects listed there in the completions for the month. But as we have been reporting, there has been slippage through the back end of the year, and that's reflected in the underspend, which I'll draw your attention to just on 2.1. So we're at 88.5 million of $108.5 million budget. So that's around 81% delivered in the year so far. Those financial figures are still to be finalised, but that's about where it's landed. Obviously, that's not a great outcome for us. We really aim to get much higher than that and well over 90% ideally, so that's something we are looking into. And just on that highlighting that, we are starting a full review of the Capital Works Directorate, just to highlight or uncover, if you like, any opportunities that we have to improve our processes and our delivery going forward in the future years. Just on the section 2.3 of the report on page 54, highlighting, I suppose, that we do have a lot of projects underway and that we track throughout the course of those phases of the projects, whether it be business case, design or actual construction. We have quite a lot completed in the year. quite a lot of designs that have been completed and business cases as well. But what I do want to highlight is 86 business cases that are in progress, 123 designs that are in progress, and 238 projects that are in construction. So that's, you know, well over 400 projects that we're tracking through to next financial year, which does put us in a very good position for that year. So I'd like to put forward that we accept the June report, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much, Director. And yeah, just before I ask for questions, we launched this week a consultants review with the CEO and the Director and a number of other staff of the Capital Works program. So they're taking it very seriously about our desire to actually spend what we say we're going to spend and see what internal infrastructure and internal processes need to be changed to allow us to do all of that, or get to the most expenditure we can get out of the Capital Works program. So you know, I commend the CEO and the Director for bringing that review on. Are there questions? Councillor England.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just with regards to the variances, I understand the delay is due to weather and availability of equipment, but what are the timing issues? What's the timing issue?
Timing?
Sorry, on
There's timing issues on two of the variances. It just refers to one reason is weather for one variance, and then the other there's two that say timing.
Yeah, so if you're referring to the fourth one there, timing area with accruals, is that the one you mean? Page 53, Paget Lab.
The timing area of the accrual
Paget
process.
Lab.
Yeah.
Timing area with accrual of processing of invoice.
Yeah. So what that means is the team have said that we will be receiving that invoice this month, but we actually haven't received it yet, so it hasn't hit the actuals.
Yeah.
But there is still an opportunity through the period we're in right now to receive that invoice from the contractor, assess it and approve it, which means it will still hit the books when the financials are finalised, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it hasn't actually yet, so that's why it's showing as an underspend, but we still expect that expenditure.
Yep, cool.
Does that make sense?
Yep, it does. Thank you.
And the same for the Six
Same.
Riverside demolition?
Yes. Same for the public.
Further questions? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Your Worship. Page 55, I note at the end of the page it states that the report's been circulated to ELT and SLT for that review and that feedback. And I was just wondering how long it will be before we get briefed in council on that.
Director.
Yeah, so you're referring to the EPMF review that we did and the gap analysis. So that piece of work we've been doing now for a few months internally. We've had an officer charged with putting together that. But because we had the pending Capital Works Directorate review, which we've just kicked off, we've held off actually circulating that any further because that will form part of the review, and it's actually a major part of what the consultant will want to look at as we move forward through the review. So certainly I'm happy to brief council on that report separately, or when it forms part of the overall outcomes report for the capital review.
Yeah, but
because they are intrinsically linked.
it probably needs to come to council, but we'll work out how that does.
Yep, happy to do that.
Thank you. Another question, Your Worship, is the completion date on page 61 for the footpath was supposed to be June, and the comments say that works are progressing, so that tells me that it's possibly not quite finished yet. I'm wondering when.
Yeah, Councillor. So in the table there, the start date and the completion date that are listed within the table are the proposed start and finish dates for the project, and we don't change those, so we can track them. And then the comments reflect what's actually happening. So if there is a delay, that's reflected in the comments. So you're right, it was meant to be finished by end of June, that particular project. We have had a few delays throughout the course of the project, and they're listed, actually some of them are mentioned in the wording below there. But now we're expecting that to be finished. They're saying by the end of next week, so we're saying by the end of July.
Okay, cool. And,
Further questions?
And similarly, Your Worship, page 65, Halliday Bay Car Park, it's looking great on the photos. It also states June completion, and in the comments it just says that it's achieving its milestone. So my assumption was that it was finished, but I just wanted to double check.
Yeah, sorry, that should just say it's complete. It is completed.
Okay.
CEO will note down there a week or so ago, it was completed then, so it's good. Okay, further questions? No further questions. Would somebody like to move the reports of adoption? Councillor England moves, Councillor Jones seconds, Councillor England.
Thank you, Worship. As the Director said, over 400 projects, 36 of which completed in the last month, including McIntyre Street Kalen Shared Footpath, the link to the school, Slade Point Community Hall, Disability Amenities Upgrade, 5th Lane Mackay Water Main Renewal, Murray Creek Boat Ramp at Holiday Bay Stage 2 and Car Park, and the footpath connection to the boat ramp, formalised car parking, Walkerston Library front of house counter replacement, and the Farley Dumbledon Road culvert upgrade. Key contracts approved. We got the Sydney Street water main approved and Alligator Creek water tank. In a design summary report, the design services commenced and completed several design projects, including the Mount Oscar Reservoir repairs, Hogan's Pocket stormwater upgrade, Blacks Beach Reservoir number 1 and 2 repairs, and the survey office is currently working on the Seaforth Esplanade Reserve redevelopment. Park improvement projects that we went, as Councillor May commented, we went and saw the Kamala water quality upgrade water treatment plant, where it's at, and this includes the direct treatment of raw water being softened with the use of an ion exchange softening process. That's $2.5 million. Yakapari Seaforth Road shared path stage 1, nearly $700,000. Stages 2 and 3 will be $1.6 million. The culvert replacement package currently at $2 million and works are progressing well. Holiday Pay car park and footpath over $700,000, and the animal management centre $3.3 million. The staff are now working to ensure smooth transition from the existing building into the new administration building, and they must be pretty excited about that.
Thanks very much, Councillor Angus. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Councillor Jones speaking for.
Thank you, Worship. Look, I also want to applaud the Capital Works team. It's been a great effort from the staff for the month of June. As everybody will see in the report, there has been a number of projects completed, as Councillor Englert has just said, but I just wanted to, I guess, describe it from a different point of view in that we have had completed projects from all corners of the region, and just like to name a few places such as Gargett, Morani, Halliday Bay, Bakers Creek, Dumbledon, North, South, East and West Mackay. Thank you, Worship.
Thanks, Councillor Jones. Other speakers? Councillor Green speaking for.
Thank you, Your Worship. We've mentioned a few times now the swag of major and minor projects on the go in this report, but today I'd like to focus on the update of stages 1, 2 and 3 of the Yakapari Seaforth Road Shared Park project. This is an exciting project for this community who have designed this park for over 30 years. The Hibiscus Coast Progress and Sports Association instigated the project some 6 years ago by funding $40,000 towards a concept design they presented to council. And it's wonderful to be part of a council that has been able to deliver not only the 160 metres extension of the path from the Seaforth State School to Avalan Drive, but also stages 2 and 3 that will see the path extend all the way through to the Seaforth Rural Fire Brigade. This involves elevated walkways, boardwalks across waterways to provide greater connectivity and safety for our students, cyclists and pedestrians. It will also provide access for 85-year-old Sid in his new motorised wheelchair. He's a local resident who told me how excited he was at the thought of being able to travel from his front door right down to the Seaforth Esplanade. So stage 1 experienced delays, as we've heard, and that was due to Telstra cable relocation. But construction works are now progressing, and as we've heard, should be finishing next week. The preliminary works are underway for stages 2 and 3, with a completion or proposed completion date the end of September 2021. The Seaforth State School, nearby businesses and residents were informed about the works prior to the start of this project, and the project's listed on Council's Facebook and Connecting Mackay pages if people wish to find out some more.
Thanks, Councillor Green. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Bonaventura speaking for.
Yes, Your Worship. Just wanted to follow up from Councillor Englert in relation to the Sydney Street water main. Your Worship, that's one of those ones that I am so pleased to see. We had a major failure there probably 18 months, 2 years ago, and I've been on tenterhooks that thing's going to blow again. So and I'm sure the Director will be onto that as far as getting it done reasonably quickly. But yeah, it is good to see. The other one I'd like to mention is the resurfacing and our reseal program. You know, like we've covered a lot in the 12 months, and the completion of $2.1 million of asphalting works, and the resealing works totalling almost 900,000. So that's just under $3 million, and that's an improvement to our road network that will do us well into the future. But in closing, can I just thank the Director for his honest appraisal of the fact that we are below target with our spend this year. And it is not good enough, and he understands that, and I do look forward to the result of the appraisal and the results coming forward to us to improve those figures for 21-22.
Thanks,
Thank
Councillor Bonaventura. Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. The Community and Client Services Monthly Review for June. Director Hayes.
Thank you, Your Worship. Our Community and Client Services team finished the financial year on a high note, recording some great results against their annual KPI targets, despite the ongoing impacts of COVID-19 changing requirements. So some of the standout results that I'd like to highlight include we've had more than 500,000 instances of people using our library catalogue to find resources against a target of 300,000. So this helps people to feel confident in servicing themselves when they walk into our spaces and using the technology. We've had 97% of our annual library lending target met. This meant that we provided more than 972,000 loans to the community against a target of 1 million. Our MEC team fully cost recovered 70% of performances held, which is 20% better than target, and hosted 53 events during the year that attracted attendees from outside of our region, almost doubling their goal in this space. The MEC also had a great rate of student attendance, so we started the year with a target of having 1,000 students through the MEC, and we've ended the year with more than 2,200 having attended our space during that period. The MRC website was well utilised during the year with more than 615,000 visits during the 12 months, with an average monthly visitation of over 51,000. We've also finished the financial year period with 97% of food businesses across our region holding a 3-star or better Eat Safe rating. Now, some of the other highlights I'd just like to quickly note include our library team launching Strolling Stories at the Mackay Region Botanic Gardens, which showcases 14 large panels from our local picture book, Birds Don't Have Birthdays. This entices young readers to move through the gardens with the panels spanning 350-metre loop trail, with several of the images coming to life through the magic of augmented reality. Now, during June, we were also able to inject more than 66,000 into our local arts community, with 15 applications received in the latest round of our Regional Arts Development Fund program, each being fully funded. And finally, our new Know Your Bird website was launched during the month to great success. Now, this provides residents with a quick and easy way of identifying playgrounds, half-courts, parks, pathways and more in their local areas. Now, this initiative has been a great example of team collaboration involving corporate communications and marketing, sport and rec, parks and our GIS teams, working together to deliver this great outcome for our community. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much, Director. Certainly was a good report to read with all those fantastic numbers. Are there questions? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just noted on page, I think it's page 76, where the RADIF list is of the approved grants. And I note that in the list provided in the report that there are a couple of people that have been able to, they've been categorised under Reconnect. And I'm just wondering what Reconnect, what does that mean? Like, what type of projects?
Director, can you answer that?
So we categorise the RADIF projects, as you can see here, and the Reconnect, I believe, is aimed at bringing community back together, so connecting into our community spaces. So I can send through a more full definition of the categories.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Lovely.
It just helps to describe the way.
Can you circulate that to the councillors?
Absolutely.
Director, thank you.
And another one, Your Worship, on page 84, I also note that Art Space has had a slight decrease in website visits. Do we know why the numbers have dropped over the last 12 months now to 1,500, yet less than the previous year? Is there a particular thing that may have caused that?
Director.
Thank you, Worship. I don't think there's any particular event that we can assign that to. And it is a focus of the team to attract more visitation through the website, particularly now that we're able to display our collection online as well. So that will be a key focus for us moving forward. Thanks.
Further questions? Councillor Bonaventura.
Yes, Your Worship. Just on page 95, I notice our advertising spend is noticeably high for the month of June, at almost 166,000, when last month it was only around the 70,000, and the corresponding month of last year, June last year, was only 71,600. Just after an explanation for that increase, it sort of stands out.
Certainly, Director.
Yes, certainly, thanks, Your Worship. So while it doesn't compare to last year, that last year was impacted significantly by COVID impacts. It is quite comparable to a typical June spend for our advertising budget. So some of the reasons for this is we usually have quite a lot of significant initiatives in the end part of the financial year. So this year we had things like the Mackay show, our pet registration campaign, the Know Your Bird initiative that was coming out. But this also represents for us council-wide advertising spend, not just what happens within corporate communications and marketing. So there are also several programs that would have regular recurring expenses where they need to pay for subscriptions and things that are falling in this part of the year as well, which will always occur in June.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Further questions? No further questions? Would somebody like to move the report's adoption? Councillor Jones moves, Councillor Mann seconds. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Your Worship. Look, in the highlights of the month, we've seen over the past 12 months that COVID has affected our community. But within council, I feel that our entertainment centre has been the area that is going to initially take the longest to come back because of the nature of the business and the social distancing for events. However, in saying that, I am really pleased to see the numbers climbing, and for the month of June that we've had 7,455 people through the doors, so well done to the team. I would also like to mention that we're also staying on the cutting edge at the MEC, being one of the first venues in Australia that has LED luminaires, wash beams and profiles as part of their lighting rig. We are one of very few that have them in Australia. And last but not least, recently two departments have collaborated for a conference bid and have been successful in snagging a national conference for Mackay. But of course, at the moment, we can't say which one, so I just ask the community to watch this space. Page 72, Jamie's Ministry of Food was welcomed by over 200 people in our community. And I was pleased to see that the mix in the report also included opportunities for people with disabilities and members of our ATSI community. On page 75, museums. Look, you know, museums restructuring, it's a huge project. We're undertaking looking through 70,000 collection items and deciding what museums will look like in the future for the Mackay Regional Council. But in saying that, COVID hasn't helped either. I note that the attendance numbers are low, which is fine, but I certainly was pleasantly surprised to see the social media stats and how great the reach and engagements are with our online audience. And last but not least, on page 96, community engagement. It's one of my passions, as everybody knows, so I'd just like to give an overview of what's in the report today for our listeners. Out of the 35 engagement activities listed, 24 of them are current, and they range from topics like water mains and drainage and culverts and footpaths and sewage pump stations and street widening, curb and channel roundabouts, traffic lights, bus stops. So I ask the members of the public, if you have an interest at all in any of those, then make sure you sign up for our Connecting Mackay alerts so that you can be informed about what's going on within the community, as this is one of the main ways that council now engages with our community. Out of those 35 engagement activities, there's also a list of projects that are coming up, so you won't be able to actually have your say right now, but at least the list is there and you can go and have that chat with your neighbour next door and get online and check things out on Connecting Mackay. Thank you, Worship.
Thanks, Councillor Jones. Speaker against. Any other speakers? Councillor Mann, speaking for.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yep. Look, I just want to mention safety and the safety culture within the department, but also to note it's very disappointing that members of the public continue to display bad behaviour in our venues, libraries and such like, and it's just not acceptable. I wanted to make mention of the Jamie's Ministry of Health project as well, funded by North Queensland Primary Health Network. They are doing some amazing stuff in our region, including the Serena After Hours Youth Project, which will see that the Serena Youth Centre open 3 nights a week for youth that are at risk, and that's a pilot program for 42 weeks, so that's substantial. Also, I recently attended the graduation ceremony for Project Booyah, which North Queensland Primary Health Network also partially funded, and that saw at-risk and disengaged youth go through a program that gave them some life skills particularly, but showed them pathways to employment as well. And we're we're the 10th region in the state to offer this. So there will be a second cohort go through shortly, or start to go through shortly, and that's really valuable in our region. It just shows the good work that's being done. There's also a research project which will see an archaeology study of acid lives and communities in our region. It's happening now, and there'll be a dig at the old Homebush sugar mill site, sorry. But our CAMS officer is also engaging with the broader ASSI community for their stories, and I do know of some elders that have been contacted to give their stories in different parts of the region, and also to gather interest in the project. So that's another really valuable project that will record some of the history that we may lose otherwise. I wanted to mention the museums as well. So yes, while we haven't necessarily had the physical visits at some, the combined reach of the museums has been 27,000, and the combined engagement is nearly 5,000 users. So that's pretty extensive between 4 museums. The final round of the 2021 RADF grant program was awarded, and it's very unusual for every project to be able to be funded. So that was a really good feeling. We did still meet as a committee and discuss all of the projects, but we did feel that they were all very well worth supporting, and in a variety of different genres too, which will interest the whole community. And the Festival of Arts is now in full swing, and I urge residents to take advantage of the mixed program we have on offer. I was lucky enough to attend Heading North last Saturday afternoon, amazing, partly RADF funded, and will now go on to development into a full-scale musical. So it was really, really lovely to attend. And I did notice this morning that there's over 6,000 people booked to attend DVCT Illuminate. So it's certainly a favourite, but there's certainly lots more new events that people can check out.
Thanks, Councillor Mann. Other speakers? Councillor Green speaking for.
Thank you. Look, it's really pleasing to hear that there are other councillors that also picked up on Jamie's Ministry of Food team as an advocate for healthy and active living. I'm just such a huge supporter of people learning the skills to confidently prepare nutritious home-cooked meals. It is such a vital, important life skill to learn, and I'm really pleased that our community service team is helping to support this great initiative in our community. Just a couple more things to add to that is that it also involved a trainer, the train-the-trainer component. So we now have 3 locals who have this skill to continue this program in our region. And with 214 participants in the last cohort, the ripple effects of that amongst their family and friends is huge and will be ongoing. Following on from this is the launch of the Active in the Regions program to complement the successful Active in the City program. So 6 new programs to engage our rural and regional fitness providers to subsidise, to facilitate subsidised activities for our residents in those areas are being rolled out this month. These include the child-friendly group fitness classes in the Serena Range and Dow's Creek. Sorry, I'm recovering from a respiratory illness. I'm not infectious. I just the poor old voice is suffering. Aqua aerobics at the Serena Pool, aerobics at the Serena Field of Dreams, and Pilates and yoga classes in Finch Hatton. So please connect with those classes if that's in your local region. And also to add to Councillor Mann's comments about the Regional Arts Development Funding Grant Program for the final round of 2020-2021. It really was great that all 15 applicants could be funded, and I'd just like to add to that it was really pleasing that the funding was spread right across our region this time. We've got groups such as the Midge Point Craft Group, the Youngala Community Development Association, and the Valley Theatrical Players Incorporated in Pinnacle as beneficiaries. And as always, this round attracted a range of young emerging artists, established artists, exciting green arts projects, and even some storytelling concepts to keep the history of our region alive. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Green. Councillor Townsend, speaking for.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think we're all pretty excited about some of the events upcoming. One of the things that I really get excited about is our Mackay Festival of Arts. That to me is a highlight of my year, and I never miss attending on the day. We've seen a strong community response so far with more than 6,500 tickets sold. And I was lucky enough to attend also the event of Heading North, which was produced by our very own local Joel Bow, featuring the music of Graham Connors. And it's good to highlight here also that this event was partially funded by the Regional Arts Development Fund. So that just goes to prove, when you see this premier event, how good it is that they're able to access the funding. Finally, I'd like to say how fantastic it was to welcome 95 new Aussies from 22 countries at our citizenship ceremony last month. This is one event that I also love to attend, and to be part of the celebrations and the jubilations of our new Aussies it's pretty heartwarming. So welcome to our new Aussies in Mackay.
Thanks, Councillor Townsend. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Bonaventura speaking for.
Yes, Your Worship. Just like to follow on Councillor Green in relation to those active in the region programs. These are subsidised by Council and the North Queensland Sports Foundation through their Move It MQ program. All classes will just cost $5, with the fees paid directly to your service provider. And it's fantastic to be able to combine our natural beauty of our rural areas with these subsidised fitness programs. So rural residents have less access to trained fitness providers, so this is a fantastic initiative that helps provide affordable fitness programs for residents in some of the far corners of our regions, Your Worship. Just in relation to one other thing, I'd like to ask the Director to pass on my congratulations to staff involved in the Mackay show display. I attended on 2 days out of the 3 and lent a hand, and it was great to see. It was such an open display. There were so many activities for people to be part of and to see and to learn about our council area and what happens within our region. In particular, the booth that related to our city centre, and there was the board with pin-up, what's your big idea for the city centre? And it was really good to see locals interacting with that and giving us their points, and I'm sure they will come back to us via a briefing at some stage to give us some idea of what the residents feel is needed within our region. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bonaventura. Did you get on the bike?
I did. Yeah. I did. It was uphill. It was uphill when I was using it.
I didn't quite make it up there also. Thank you, Councillor Bonaventura. Are there any other speakers? Councillor May.
Just quickly, Your Worship, I just wanted to make note of the handing over of the ATV to the SES. Councillor Hassan, Councillor Englert and myself, and you were there, of course, to present that to the SES, and they were extremely grateful to have that piece of equipment in their range of equipment that they have, and that's going to enable them to do enhanced land search, get into places that are more difficult to get into, launching of their boats via the ATV as well. And obviously there'll be training involved in all members that can drive that piece of equipment. And I want to also mention the capability, in the operational capability of the SES and how that's starting to build. And we can see in the numbers there of the SES groups throughout the region. And it's vitally important that we continue to support our SES in an ongoing manner to make sure that we are disaster ready, and we rely on our SES volunteers heavily when that time comes around. So just a great job, and it was great to be there on the night.
Thanks, Councillor May. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Development Services. The Integrated Transport Strategy for 2021 through to 2026. This is presented for adoption today. There's a lot of work gone into this strategy, and I must congratulate Jay Rosenberg and the team. But this, of course, is the strategic transport direction for our region, taking us through to 2036. Director, would you like to speak to this report and then we'll get some questions?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. As you said, a lot of work's gone into this, and Jay's done an amazing job, as well as the rest of the strategic planning team. And also, this has had input from across council as well, because the purpose of this strategy is really to bring together our strategic planning as it relates to our transport system and all the different modes of transport. So I think what we've ended up with is a very good document that will set us in good stead and give us good direction going forward.
Here. Questions? No questions? Would somebody like to move? Councillor May moves. Councillor Townsend seconds. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and yes, the congratulations goes to the team. It's been an enormous effort. So the Mackay Region Integrated Transport Strategy, spanning from 21 to 2036, sets out the strategic direction for the Mackay Region transport system and recognises the unique challenges and opportunities of the region, aligning with the broader planning and community objectives. We commenced this work in 2019, so it's been quite an undertaking for the team to be able to work through that. I wanted to really highlight the connection and the contact with the community. So public consultation occurred. We did that via Connecting Mackay, and there was 592 visits to the Connecting Mackay website during that period, and 176 downloads occurred of the strategy, along with 8 submissions being made and 67 individual comments that were put forward through that process. Just in a quick summary, the questions or the comments that were made were about active transport and making sure that we're providing and looking and planning for the future for that better integration for active transport. Also looking at improving our passenger transport, our freight lines, making sure that they're taken into consideration, and we're looking forward in planning where freight and how freight travels. Our road network and access to that road network. Sometimes the road network is not sufficient, and gaining access to that is imperative for not just passenger transport but for that freight movement as well. Shared and micro mobility, so making sure that we provide additional support and opportunities for shared and micro mobility. For example, like ride shares, cab shares, scooters, providing a whole range of different options there. So that's all been taken into consideration, and that's the feedback that's come from community and stakeholders, so that was fantastic. So the strategy is structured in 4 key sections. We've got the background of the report. We look at the strategic directions of the strategy. And of course, the very important part is the action plan. And the final bit is around implementation. So it's a very comprehensive document. It's something that will hold us in good stead to be able to make sure that we are planning, looking forward and accommodating our growing community.
Thanks, Councillor May. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Councillor Jones?
Just your indulgence, not really speaking, but just a question for clarification, Your Worship. And I've only just picked it myself. We're talking about the region's integrated transport strategy, and it says 2021-2026, but in the report it talks about it taking us through to the 36.
It's a 2036 program. I think there was an update to the agenda.
There was, you're right. My apologies. Thank you.
Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thank you. 11.4.2, facilitating development for the Great Barrier Reef Arena. This is a fairly well straightforward, even though it's quite lengthy, it's fairly well straightforward. Are there questions that we can put to the Director? Any questions? Councillor Bonaventure.
There is, Your Worship. Just under the specific eligibility criteria, it states, based on information provided, the proposal satisfies the requirements under the eligibility criteria for tourism development. Have staff done any checking in relation to the validity of numbers provided? And the 2 points I want to point out are the 90 new permanent jobs and the increased visitation to the region of over 54,000 visitor nights annually.
Director, can you answer that?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. We do rely on information that's provided by the applicant as part of the application process. in some circumstances, we do work with the applicant to help them, with the methodology for generating that data. I'm not sure if that was the case here. In any event, I think we're quite comfortable with the information that's been submitted as part of the application.
A further question, Councillor Wellmitry?
Well, sort of when you look at, even in our own section, because that was...
There's a question.
Is it a question?
We can't
It'll
debate
lead to
it.
a question, Your Worship. That specific eligibility criteria was the bit that the applicant filled in, but under our own section, under business and regional benefits, we state basically the same thing. And basically, in order to give me peace of mind in giving away 191,000 in infrastructure charges, I just want to confirm that staff have checked the numbers and agree with the points provided. Because that's what I've got to rely on your staff and the ability for them to do that.
Councillor Volunteer, so the question is?
The question is, can you confirm that staff have checked the numbers and agree with the points provided in our section of the report, not the section of the report from the applicant?
Director.
Yes, thank you, Worship. That section of the report does lead in by saying that our analysis is based on the information provided by the applicant. I'd have to take on notice whether we specifically ran any modelling or did any specific checks in that regard on the figures. However, I doubt we did. But I can say that we are satisfied and we do agree with the information that's been provided.
Okay. Further questions, Councillor Seymour?
In the report from Urbis, it says here that there's 148 existing car parks via Juliet Street, but then you go to the management plan and it says there will be a further 159 parks will be developed. This compromises 146 existing parks. So is the 159 parks they've got to put in, are they counted the 272?
I'm not sure I understand that question. Could you rephrase that?
Yeah, well, there's 272 car parks off Juliet Street. And in the engineer's report, traffic report, it says the total 159 parks spaces will be provided for development. This compromises 148 existing parks spaces.
Compromises. Do you understand that, Director? Can you?
Through the Chair, I think it includes those additional car parks. So there might be a typo. I think it is supposed to be comprises.
Comprises, yeah.
Yes.
Compromises doesn't seem like the right word.
I would say there's a typo in that report. What I will say is that all the car parking and the requirements for the facility on business as usual and then for events, that was all assessed as part of the development application for the development. And part of the criteria for being able to get the facilitating development policy support is to have a valid development approval in place.
So what page was that? That's obviously a typo, I'd say.
Yeah, no, it's got two different
Compromises, yeah, okay. All right. Any further questions? No further questions? Would somebody like to move the reports of adoption? Councillor England moves, Councillor Green seconds, Councillor England.
Thank you, Worship. The development supports enhanced regional tourism. I'll let Councillor Green go first while I restart my computer, mate.
Speaker against.
Thank you.
Any other speakers? Councillor Green speaking for.
Thank you, Your Worship, and Councillor England. Your Worship, this is an exciting development that will be a boon to the entertainment, sporting and tourism sectors in the Mackay region. The proposed development of Mackay Cricket Association, known as the Great Barrier Reef Arena development, is categorised as a material change of use for major sport, recreation and entertainment facility. The proposal involves a major redevelopment of the Harrop Park Country Club in South Mackay. The purpose of the proposed redevelopment is to provide an elite venue for Mackay which caters to AFL, cricket and other events. In particular, the redeveloped facility will qualify for hosting Tier 1 cricket events and will also become a Category 4 venue for Australian rules football. These new facility classifications will allow for Mackay to host major events including Test cricket matches, Big Bash League matches, AFL exhibition matches and AFLW matches. And we all know how much Mackay and indeed Queenslanders love their sport. So to have the ability to have to retain and attract these events alone is significant. The proposal will establish Harrop Park as a key community space which has the capacity to host a wider range of public and sporting events. And again, One thing we hear is we need more entertainment options in our community. So once again, if we can provide that, then that's a great thing. To ensure the full value of the redevelopment is realised, the Harrop Park Country Club is partnering with tourism bodies and the Mackay Airport, retaining and attracting major sporting, entertainment and cultural events that will increase domestic and international visitation by over 54,000 visitor nights per year is the intention of this project. Schedule 4 version 7 of the Facilitating Development in the Mackay Region Policy seeks to promote development that will support increased tourism to the region and, importantly, enhance the reputation of the Mackay region as a tourist destination. It's my opinion that this development will do exactly what the policy seeks to achieve for the Mackay region. Further to the obvious significant social benefits to our community, the economic and employment benefits are significant. A direct injection of $20 million in construction costs will result in a combined supply chain and consumption effect of $27.45 million, totalling a $47.45 million economic impact. The application is committed to using local contractors and suppliers. The construction period will generate 90 full-time equivalent jobs, with 90 new permanent jobs created post-construction in the operational phase. So in summary, Your Worship, providing the developers with a concession of $191,634 is a small sum in exchange for the significant and valuable social and economic benefits this project will provide for our community now and into the future, and it has my full support. Thank you.
Speaker against? Councillor Anglet, do you wish to?
Thank you,
This was almost a reply.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I qualify, but just for the record, Your Worship, Councillor Green did.
Do you have a point?
I want to speak for it, but if Councillor Anglet closes it, I would lose that right.
You are speaking against?
No, for the motion.
Oh, for the motion. Okay.
You asked for anyone for against.
Okay, so I didn't think there was any other speakers. If you want to speak for the motion, Councillor Bonventura, and we'll let you close then, Councillor Anglet.
Fine. Your Worship, just in light of the staff's assurance that what's in the report will occur, and the fact that when operation, the applicant anticipates that there will generate 90 ongoing jobs and contribute $7.6 million in annual wages and salaries, as well as 54,000 visitor nights. On those grounds, Your Worship, I must support.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bonventura. Councillor Jones, you wanted to speak for?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I actually wanted your indulgence for another question. I did put my hand up just before Councillor Anglet went to move the motion, and you just didn't quite catch me in the corner of your eye. I just wanted to ask, in the report it does state about public transport, buses bringing people to the event, which is great because it helps with our transport issues. But I didn't actually see anywhere where the physical drop-offs for all of these bus zones were going to be, and I just wondered if we could ask the Director that question.
Director, you can answer that. So, are there physical drop-off points articulated in the planning report?
Yes, Your Worship. So through the application process, there was a plan provided of how event management would occur, which had things like that, overflow car parking, bus drop-off locations, etc. So I'm happy to circulate that. We do have that as part of the development application. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Anglet.
Thank you, Worship. For the record, Councillor Green did a much better job than I anticipated doing in the first place, so the university agreed that should be the order of things. We received a briefing on this on the 14th of April, and under Schedule 4 it allows for up to $1 million infrastructure concessions, and this meets the Schedule E Policy 4. They recommended a 100% decrease on that, and I'd like to make the point that I think this is the best outcome for the ratepayers. If you remember, the state government actually wanted us to own this if they wanted to put money towards it. We don't want to own any more stadiums. It's not, in my opinion, in the ratepayers' interest. We spend significantly more than this each year on other sports in the region, and I think supporting cricket and AFL at the top tiers is a good mix of sports for people in the region. So they've also been told that they must commence and complete by the 23rd. I'll be operating by the 23rd of June 2023, and they must use local contractors and suppliers. So I support the motion.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. 11.4.3, facilitating development in the Mackay Region Policy. Once again, this is for Kerrisdale Gardens, aged care facilities. Are there questions? We've had briefings on this and this is presented to council again. So are there questions? No questions? Would somebody like to move then to Councillor Green moves, Councillor Jones seconds. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Worship. The rationale of Schedule 3, Version 7 of the Facilitating Development in Mackay Region policy is to ensure that our region is positioned to support its growing ageing population by incentivising a range of healthcare, aged care and retirement developments. It is estimated that for the Mackay Regional Council area, the number of residents aged over 65 years will increase to 15.2% of our population by the year 2036. That's an estimated 30,164 people, who will create a shift in the demand for housing types and lifestyle opportunities. This report before us today supports the 100% concession on estimated infrastructure charges of $431,369 for the applicant, Good Shepherd Lodge Charitable Trust, a not-for-profit organisation and a significant employer in our region. The proposed development is for the extension of the Kerrisdale Gardens aged care facility in Beaconsfield. Stage 2 involves the construction of 4 stories and includes 10 apartments, 37 care rooms, chapel and men's shed. Extended timeframes in the detailed design process and financial challenges associated with COVID-19 saw the original approval not proceed. Prior to the lapse date, the applicant sought an extension and council officers advised reapplying through a new application as the 12-month extension was considered insufficient to construct this facility. The new policy application for 100% infrastructure concessions has strengthened the feasibility of the project and creates more certainty around project commencement. The policy seeks to close the gap in unmet needs of, across our community through incentivising developers to invest in our region, whilst also developing significant economic development and growth. Providing these concessions in this case will support the delivery of this project, providing much needed aged care living facilities, an economic impact of $28.47 million, 62 direct and indirect jobs during construction, and approximately 30 full-time and 50 part-time jobs when it's operational. Your Worship, this has my full support.
Thank you very much, Councillor Green. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Councillor Jones speaking for.
Thank you, Worship. Just short and sweet, I've been connecting just lately with a few of our aged care residents in the community and understanding what it is that their needs are. So it is really great to see an opportunity for more aged care facilities within our region for our ageing population, because I know firsthand it's greatly needed.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jones. Any other speakers? No other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Those carried unanimously. Thank you. Move on to the Engineering Commercial Infrastructure report on a petition for the Palm Beach Drive and the Holtz intersection. I'll ask the Director, Jason Devitt, to speak. Please, Director.
Thank you, Worship. We received a petition about a dangerous intersection. We had previously undertaken a safety review of that road line, so the recommendations are there to the council to say that at this stage we don't propose to do anything with the intersection. We continue to monitor, but there are a number of other provisions being recommended to help improve safety of that intersection.
Thanks, Director. This is a pretty extensive report presented to council for this one. Are there questions around this? No questions around this. Would somebody like to move then the adoption of the report? Councillor Jones moves, seconded by Councillor Hassan. Councillor Jones?
I think it's all self-explanatory.
Okay, thanks very much. If there's no other speakers, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thank you. Under Organisational Services at 11.6.1, the lease of land for the Mackay District Hackney Pony Club. Are there questions around this? No questions? Would somebody like to move the report's adoption for the lease of land? Councillor Mann moves. Councillor Townsend seconds. Councillor Mann? Okay, there's pretty well straightforward. If there's no other speakers, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. Lease of land, lease of a building at 11.6.2, which is the Lagoons Hut, Mackay District Australian South Sea Islanders Association Incorporated. And I think it's important to note there that Council is under, as recorded in this agenda item, under section 238 of the Local Government Act, we as a local government may dispose of a valuable non-current asset other than by tender or auction if the valuable non-current asset is disposed of to a community organisation. And so it's quite important, because the question might be, well, why didn't you go out to tender? But we can do that as a council under the Local Government Act. Are there questions at all? No questions? Would somebody like to move the adoption? Councillor Jones moves, Councillor May seconds. Councillor Jones.
As you said, Your Worship, thorough report, happy to move on.
Thank you. If there's no other speakers, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. 11.6.3 is a petition response report. This is the petition response report on the proposed telecommunications tower at Gillan's Park at Annagrove. Once again, it's fairly straightforward and a good report too. Are there questions? Councillor Jones.
Your Worship, I just wanted to know if it was possible that when the applicant actually gets to the point where they do the community consultation, if all councillors can be advised of when that community engagement will occur, so that if councillors are available, we can attend.
Okay, I think we normally do that, but we'll make sure that we do. Thank you. See ya. Okay. Are there any further questions? Would somebody like to move the report's adoption? Moved by Councillor Townsend, seconded by Councillor May. Councillor Townsend?
It's all straightforward.
Okay, there's no speakers. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thank you. There's no other petitions. There's no tenders today. There's no notified motions. Public participation. We've got a few people in the public gallery today, and most are going to talk to us about the Beaconsfield Annagrove flood mapping program. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for being in the public gallery today. Our bylaws require, in terms of public participation, that you stand and give your name and address. Tell us what you're going to talk to us about. This is not an interactive session, but we're happy to hear your presentation today. And you have 3 minutes under our bylaws, and so we'll start with Katrina Corrie. Thank you very much, Ms. Corrie.
Katrina Corrie from 10 Furlong Street. I'd like to acknowledge that in this formal and somewhat intimidating facility that both Councillor Green, who I've learned her name while we've been presenting this morning, and Councillor Hassan have actually turned around and acknowledged us here, and I've really appreciated that. It did make me feel somewhat comfortable. My first knowledge about this was through the letter that arrived in my letterbox, and even though it states in paragraph 2 that the consultation occurred, I, as a resident who am fairly active in knowing what's going on, was totally unaware of this and felt that perhaps that should have been publicised to the residents that are concerned, rather than get a letter after the event. I found the visual quite worrisome, even though it states it's 1% likelihood. That looks as though virtually all the Annagrove is going to be flooded. I know I've lived in the area for 50, 60 years and certainly haven't seen that yet, so hopefully it's not going to happen in the next 40 years. I was concerned also that the level of literacy required to understand the communication that was sent to residents in this area, and we know that Annagrove is made up by, and Beaconsfield are made up by a number of, or a fairly high proportion of lower socioeconomic. I don't think it was either inclusive or accessible for people in those scenarios. I was able to understand it, and certainly people I talked to in my area, but I think that as someone who's worked in that area all my life, it was not as inclusive or as accessible as it could have been. And I felt that a couple of factors around referring us on to that the current flood hazard overlay could be accessed by going to the website was relatively hidden in the way in which the letter is written, so it doesn't easily show that I could go on and see my particular property. It's hidden down at the back of the bottom of the letter. And if I refer back to the consultation phase, I would have been thinking that there would have been more consultation if it had been more widely advertised. I'm aware it was on Facebook apparently, and I'm aware it was on Connecting Mackay, but they're neither of the sites that I certainly looked at and was certainly unaware.
Okay.
I'm a ratepayer for a long time, so I felt that that was an oversight or something that could have been done better.
Thanks, Ms. Curry. We'll refer that to the CEO, and we will get back to you as soon as we can in terms of the explanation from the council's perspective. Thank you. We might move on to Carol Schofield, Ms Schofield, thank you very much.
Good morning everyone, Mr Mayor and councillors and everyone else. I'm Carol Schofield, I live at 12 Crease Street, which is a pretty steep hill off Eaglemount Road. I didn't receive a letter and didn't know anything about it until my friends informed me of this flood map, and my area is included. I find that rather alarming. I tell you, if the sea level rises about 20 metres and we get another flood, everyone in Mackay will be in boats before I have to leave my house because it's so high. It is not in a flood area. It has never flooded. All this area around, I have lived there for 52 years. I've never seen it flooded. Why wasn't there more consultation? Why wasn't there a public meeting called? Why weren't we all informed so we could have come and heard about this, what is now a fait accompli? It's very discouraging. I think it's very bad PR. So I think the council could have done better. Another issue I'd like to raise, which is different, it's the second one, is about the rate rise. Thank goodness we're getting 36 million coming in. There are a lot of people in Mackay who aren't connected with the mines, who don't have a very high income, and yet our rates are very high. My daughter, who lives in Ipswich, informs me that our rates are double what is Ipswich. I know they've got more people, possibly less area, and it's great all the things that are happening. But please, will you keep applying for more grants? Try to get more money to come in that won't be needed to be paid by the ratepayers. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms Schofield, thanks very much. Margaret Aroldi. Ms Aroldi, thank you very much.
My name is Margaret Aroldi and I live at 1/10 King Street, Grove, and we built on our property in 1984, 2 units. And since then there has been no flooding at all, even the bigger flood we had earlier in the last decade, 2007 wasn't it? No flooding at all. And I was so shocked when I got this one, and I couldn't really understand why it seemed that our property was definitely going to be flooded. And then we printed out the 3 maps that you suggest in the letter, and even then I couldn't get a good picture. I could see that the streets seemed to be flooded, but the property not. So I'm just saying, I don't think the way it was presented to us was wise. I think it caused alarm. And as Mrs. Corris suggested, I think there's a lot of people in Grove Beaconsfield who feel totally incompetent after reading that letter about anything they might be able to do. We spoke to our own neighbours, but I just believe it could have been done a lot better.
Thank you very much, Ms Aroldi. Barry Scoble. Mr Scoble, thank you.
Hi, thanks Councillor, thanks Mayor. Thanks for letting me have this chat. My name is Barry Scoble, I live at 4 Caribbean Court in Grove. I'd like to address the new flood zones that have been raised as well. In 2008, I had the esteemed privilege of being in the front page of the paper for being flooded. We lost just about everything in the 2008 floods. We were in a house on Elizabeth Street near the Goose Ponds. So that was declared a disaster area, so we got insurance and stuff for that. We used the council's own website and flood zones to determine where we were going to buy a house next. So we did a lot of research to make sure that we didn't really want to purchase on top of a hill, we wanted a flat land, and we used your own council's flood zones to purchase. So once we purchased there, we lived there for quite some time. The biggest issues that I have is, you know, I have to take my glasses off, is that will we still be able to get flood insurance, and if we do, will it be greatly increased because of the increase in the flood zone? I have a concern that we possibly have trouble getting flood insurance anyway because of being flooded in the past, but we moved to a dry area now, it's considered a flood zone. Is the flood zone increase in level, is that because of some of the infrastructure and civil construction work that's been done in the low-lying areas of Beaconsfield, which would have once been a wetland anyway. So as the RL gets raised to put buildings on behind the Beaconsfield School and stuff like that, it raises water levels coming down to all those sorts of areas. I know that's not a question and answer response, but that's one of my concerns, that the council are approving these buildings and these constructions, and then that's changing where flood water goes and how fast it travels. So yeah, so and I agree with the cost, you know, so rates are going up. If my insurance goes up and stuff like that, does the council have any reimbursement or something for that because they've moved flood zones, just like that? Yeah, and I think there was a lack of consultation, community consultation. The first I'd really heard of it, because I don't go on websites too much and overload of media, social media and mainstream TV and stuff like that, I sort of try and stay away from it a bit. And yeah, get a letter in the letterbox, I thought was a bit right. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Mr. Scobell. Look, the CEO will take all of those points on board. We obviously have a fairly large community connection program, but in this case, a very complex issue, and we probably need to revisit what we're doing there. Mr. May, were you speaking?
Oh yeah, meeting process. Clinton B, 13 Borough Drive, Beaconsfield High. I didn't get a letter and I was in Beaconsfield, so I was on the club. This is in regards to when you're getting questions on notice, we're getting questions from the gallery. I've noticed on observation that you're not replying back at the next meeting, and I've noticed this is the first one in about 5 years you've done so. I just want to know why it's taken 5 years for responses from the public gallery to be published in the meeting minutes.
Okay. We don't answer questions here. That's not what it's designed to do, but we'll take that on notice. These aren't questions on notice from the public gallery. They are taken on board, and the staff actually answer the questions. We don't answer questions from the public gallery in the meetings. What you saw today was questions taken on notice from our directors, which come back as part of this meeting procedure. All right, but the CEO will take that as well. Thank you. Okay, I think that's about it. Thank you. There's late business. Councillors for late business. Any late business? Councillor Bella.
I'd like to make mention of what I believe is a worsening situation with regard to COVID. I'm not one of the naysayers. I believe very strongly in the seriousness of what's going on and the fact that it is going to cause long-lasting effects within our society. People tend to talk about the survival rate, and I'd like to refer to a military analogy. Many weapons in the military aren't designed to kill, they're designed to maim. And the reason for that is maiming causes a depletion of resource far more effectively than killing does. That's not to mention the psychological aspect. The problem with COVID is not the death rate, the problem is the number of people whom are maimed, who are damaged in the long term, and many of these are people who have had asymptomatic doses of COVID, projections of between 10 and 20%. And that will be a drain on our health system for a very, very long time. I myself am particularly worried. I sit in a risk category because of my age, because of my overweight and a couple of other issues that I won't mention. So I'm particularly careful, and I appreciate people being careful. I would appreciate people going and getting their vaccination. I've had my first. It's going to be a while before I can have my second, and I will actually hasten it. That's a trade-off, but I actually don't believe I can take the risk of waiting the full 3 months. For this reason, I appreciate people that go the extra mile. And in actual fact, our Council and Community Day last week was not attended by 2 of our councillors for the simple fact that they had been in hotspots They were required to attend, to wear masks and social distance. I truly appreciate the actions of those two councillors in not attending. Basically, I think, generally I don't think it was a good idea, and secondly, in my particular situation, I appreciate it, even though it means a black mark on their attendance record. So at their own personal cost, they have actually, I believe, shown great responsibility. And I'd like to ask other members of our community to show similar responsibility, get vaccinated and follow the guidelines, please.
Thanks, Councillor Bella. Any further late business? Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I'd just like to bring to the Council's attention that Saturday is the Mackay Regional Council home game for the Gold Coast Suns. So myself representing you at that event, and some of our staff, the Director of Development Services and our Manager of Economic Development and our Development Officer will be in attendance. I think the CEO is in attendance as well. So we're going to be going down to the Gold Coast, promoting Mackay and the Mackay region and all of the great things that we have on offer here. Looking forward to the interaction with other sponsors of the Gold Coast Suns as well. And we will be endeavouring to do our best to sell Mackay to those people and encourage people to be looking at the Mackay region if they want to do business, if they want a nice place to live and a comfortable job availability is here. So all in all, and of course the game itself will be that the Suns are on a winning streak. They've won their last 2 games, so let's see if we can make it a hat-trick.
Thank you. Further late business? No further late business? Councillors, there's a couple of confidential reports that we probably do need to get some feedback on. Nobody? They're straightforward enough? Okay, very good. That's good. All right, so we'll deal with the 2 reports in the confidential area. First one is the Pioneer Goose Ponds Levy 10-year resumption report. That's the Gazettal application. Somebody like to move its adoption. Councillor Townsend moves. Councillor Mann seconds. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. The second is the Pioneer Goose Ponds Levy 10-year resumption report of a notice of intention to resume. Somebody like to move its report. Councillor Townsend moves. Councillor Hassan seconds. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thank you. Thanks, councillors. Thank you, CEO. Thank you, directors. And I declare the meeting closed.